Welcome to an overview of X-ray diffraction and how we unlock material structure through advanced analysis. This slide introduces the core capabilities: crystal lattice mapping, phase identification, molecular modeling, and data-driven insights, alongside tools like electron density visualization and scientific instruments. The graphic links these elements to practical innovation potential, setting the stage for a focused mini-lecture on diffraction fundamentals. This slide explains the three main X-ray interactions: elastic Rayleigh, scattering that produces coherent diffraction; inelastic Compton, scattering, which adds background noise; and photoelectric absorption that limits penetration by ejecting inner shell electrons. The panels also show how an atom's scattering power falls with angle and wavelength, and how the linear attenuation coefficient depends strongly on atomic number and photon energy, shaping practical measurement depth. Here, we unpack Bragg's law, the simple geometric rule, NL equals 2D synth, that explains constructive interference from lattice planes. The diagram shows how path difference between scattered waves becomes an integer number of wavelengths, producing strong peaks in a diffractogram. In practice, Bragg's law converts three-dimensional lattice spacings into measurable 2C positions, which is the backbone of crystallographic analysis. This page connects real space unit cells to reciprocal space using the reciprocal lattice and the Ewald sphere construct. The left diagram shows the Fourier transform from cell vectors to reciprocal vectors G equals HOI plus KB plus LC, while the Ewald sphere illustration explains that diffraction occurs when a reciprocal lattice point intersects the sphere, directly linking scattering angle to crystal periodicity and measurable reflections. The structure factor, formalism, sums each atom's scattering contribution to predict diffraction intensities, but it hides phase information. The slide shows how symmetry can cause systematic absences and how measured intensity equals the squared amplitude, losing phase data. That information loss is the classic phase problem, which forces us to use indirect methods like Patterson functions or direct phasing to recover real space structure. This diagram describes Bragg-Brentano parafocusing geometry used in many lab diffractometers, showing source conditioning, incident slits, the parafocusing circle for sample interaction, and the scanning detector at 2 sets. It highlights practical trade-offs. Precise goniometer alignment is essential. Sample flatness affects peak shape, and slit optimization balances angular resolution against collected intensity for reliable peak positions and intensities. On instrument geometries and data strategy, the slide contrasts 4 circle and K geometry stages for exploring reciprocal space with area detectors that accelerate data collection. The Ewald sphere panel illustrates reciprocal lattice coverage through controlled rotations, while the right column stresses crucial factors for accurate intensities. Careful crystal centering, absorption correction, and temperature control to maintain stability and reproducibility. This workflow outlines powder diffraction fingerprinting as a stepwise path from data pre-processing and background subtraction through peak analysis and despacing calculation to database matching and final identification. The graphic emphasizes analytical complications like preferred orientation, solid solution shifts in lattice parameters, and multi-phase peak overlap, and underscores that careful peak extraction and matching are key to reliable material identification. Least squares fitting, or Rietveld refinement, is presented as a way to extract precise phase, structural, and microstructural parameters from full powder patterns. The flowchart shows refinement of profile, lattice, atomic and thermal parameters as inputs to yield phase abundances, accurate cell metrics, crystallite size, and microstrain, and it notes that success depends on good counting statistics and physically sensible starting models. The sin-squared psi method measures lattice strain as a function of tilt angle to convert strain into stress using elastic constants. The slide explains how this approach distinguishes macro-uniform stress from local micro or intergranular stress, and how penetration depth, biaxial versus triaxial assumptions, and corrections for stress gradients influence interpretation when assessing residual stresses in thin layers or bulk samples. X-ray reflectivity is shown as a sensitive probe of nanoscale thin films, where grazing incidence measurements reveal an electron density profile and Kysig fringe spacing that directly yields film thickness. The critical angle indicates electron and mass density, while fitted reflectivity curves provide roughness, interdiffusion widths, and multi-layer periodicity, making XRR ideal for non-destructive characterization of film interfaces and density profiles. The final slide surveys advanced XRD capabilities, high-energy synchrotron sources, fast area detectors, and lab microsources enable time-resolved powder and single crystal data. Controlled environments and in situ cells, temperature, pressure, gas, or electrochemical, allow operando studies so we can track phase transitions, crystallization, degradation, and kinetic pathways in real time to understand materials under realistic operating conditions.